Hello, and welcome to Ask Carl. This is our final segment in our series. The first series or the segment was Career Success as a Traffic Management Professional. The second segment was Mentorship. And the last segment is going to be Lessons as a Traffic Management Professional. So each of us have gone through different lessons that we've learned throughout our career. And because I'm sitting next to the incomparable Mr. Carl with a K, Stanton, and the reason I keep repeating Carl with a K is every time Mr. Stanton gives his name, one of the things that I always thought was really funny is he would say, "That's Carl with a K," because obviously it's a little different than the normal spelling of with the C. So he would always make sure that people knew there was Carl with a K. So let me go ahead and ask my first question. As you all know from our other segments, I shared that Mr. Stanton is retiring. And so we wanted to continue to pull a little bit more wisdom out of him as one of those gurus that sit within our enterprise.
I don't know if anything is left.
I think you got a little bit more. So, the first question, if you had to share some important lessons you've learned as a traffic management professional, what would they be?
The one most important lesson I learned, and I think this can go over any career field, any job in the private sector, uh, at the grocery store, no matter where you work at. Stop rumor control.
Oh,
Okay.
my.
Rumor control can kill the morale of any organization. And when you got rumor control going around, and that's just what it is a rumor. If you
Mhm.
didn't get the information from the horse's mouth, then don't say nothing.
Mhm.
And like my mom always said, if you ain't got nothing good to say, don't say nothing at all.
That's absolutely right.
But I think that's one of the most important I learned at an early stage is that, everybody like to talk. Nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
Okay. But don't pass around unproven information, you know, be it from the regulation, be it from something you heard in the corner or at the bar, it don't matter. If you don't have validation, leave it alone. That's the most important lesson that any career field can have is that leave the room control outside the gate,
Mhm.
outside the door. Come in, do your job.
Mhm.
Because room control, like I said earlier, can kill the morale in a unit. And that's all I got to say about one of the lessons I've learned throughout my career is that nip room control in the bud.
That's a good point. And oftentimes, uh, as you said, we're sharing things that are opinions, not facts. And it's kind of like when we get the questions out there from the career field and they say, well, hey, can you send that to me in writing? And then when you hear about it in writing, the notes that they took, they say, well, PPA told me that. No, that is in the regulation. We quoted the regulation.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I've learned that hey, if you're going to send out information or you're going to request information, make sure you have that red reference. Not Carl with a K told me that's how you do it, or Miss Jackson in the back that's been working for 40 years told me that. Make sure you document that substantial thing that validates what your thoughts
Right.
are.
And now that you mention that, I had a conversation on the phone one time, and me and this Pippo was in disagreement. Now they called me. I didn't call them. They
Mm-hmm.
called me, and I was explaining what was in the regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So that individual on the other end, so you are saying,
Mm-hmm.
and that young lady repeated it 3 times. So you are saying, I said, no, I'm not saying. I'm telling you what the regulations say. And then they turn around and say, well, can you send that in writing? I said, I send you the reference in the JTR,
Mm-hmm.
and you can go read it for yourself. It's just that simple. I'm not going to put anything out that I can't validate.
Absolutely.
And I guarantee you, for those that have received emails from me, I guarantee you it had some type of regulatory based guidance with a paragraph number, a CG number, a Doha number, some kind of number it had associated with it. I just don't tell you because this is how Mr. Stanton is feeling today. Oh, I feel like telling you this. No, I'm telling you what was in the red. That's it.
And I think that's a good practice as a professional. And that's something that I knew, but that's something that you've always driven home for us as your colleagues. Hey, make sure you substantiate what you're saying. So that takes me right into my next question. What was your most interesting experience as a traffic management professional?
I can tell you what my saddest was.
Okay, let's go with that.
This was around 1991. Uh, One of our fellow Air Force members, and some of you probably remember this. It was two ships collided in the Yellow Sea. It was either it probably was 90 between 91 and 94, and the individual shipment was in containers in the front part of the shipment.
Mm-hmm.
And when they collided, it's like the containers exploded.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't there, but that's how it was told to me,
Mm-hmm.
And this member's containers fell off. All the goods fell into the water. And the saddest thing was having to pick up the phone and call that member and tell him his shipment is a total loss.
Mm-hmm.
And you lost all your memorabilia, family heirlooms, plaques you didn't receive over the years. That's like a cut to the jugular vein.
Yes.
And it's hard to recoup from that. But that was the saddest, I think, point in my. I was on active duty,
Mm-hmm.
so I think that was probably one of the saddest things I had to do.
Yeah, and you know why? What makes it so sad, and the thing of being a traffic management professional, whether it's that blue bar shipment, whether it's that person that loses their household goods by sea or on the truck, it's sad because you always put yourself in that person's space. And even when we deal with our blue bar shipments, I've had a lot of experience in that, and it's important for us to not only do our jobs and be professionals, but also be compassionate and show empathy to those service members. And I think that's one of the things that is a thing that we all can look back and say, hey, this is a great thing that I've done. All these years as a professional, I've actually helped service members and their families get back to their sense of normalcy by getting their household goods there and making sure they're educated on the process so they can have a smooth move. Okay, that's real good. That's good stuff, Mr. Stanton.
Mm-hmm.
So our next question the next question is, what experiences do you feel have been most rewarding and impactful to our customers that you were a part of?
Ooh.
That's a good one, right?
Mm-hmm. Man. Golly. You know, when time go by, and uh, 41 years, it's like uh, so many things. When I went to my first not first overseas sign, but my first remote Osan Air Base career. Okay, uh, and it was dependent restricted at the time. I was a staff sergeant, and there was entitlements that wasn't available then. You know, and for one of those was POV storage.
Mhm.
So 1 April 1997, the authorization for POV storage came about, that anyone having order dated on or after 1 April 1997 was authorized POV storage if they went to a Oconus location where POV was restricted or they were serving a contingency plan of 30 days or more, and to be a part of the first uh, local uh, uh, POV storage contracts and help that come in fruition. I was at Gypso San Antonio during that time frame. I think the company was called AAA, you know, and that's how it all started. But another thing I really don't like about new entitlements sometimes is that they'll throw the entitlement out there, but don't provide any guidance on how to initiate it. And that's what kind of happened with the POV. I'm glad it came about for our customers because it was a good thing, especially when you had single members, single parent members, and they go into those countries, they'll have to figure out where to take their car, and that was a help for those type folks now. But as time and fast forward, now everybody wants to store their vehicle, but everybody can't store your vehicle. Okay, it's one or the other. If you authorize to ship, you can't store. If you authorize to store, you can't ship. It just goes back and forth. So, but all that is in the regulation. 053001 for POV shipment, 0532 for POV storage. So, when you review those, it gives you the eligibility for both of those. But I think being a part of initiating that first POV storage contract in San Antonio back in '97 was probably a great thing for our customers. And it's probably been many more, but that's the only one that comes to mind.
That stands out right now.
Right now.
And as traffic management professionals, we get the opportunity to sit on or provide insight for these changes, especially here at the Personal Property Activity Headquarters. So we have, since we've been working in this capacity, we have seen a lot of things change. And like you said, the impact is often, although it's something that's positive, if you are not interpreting those entitlements correctly, the impact can be adverse on our members.
Oh yeah, and when you read through the JTR, and I mean when you read through it, the JTR has a whole lot of inequities. Okay, believe it or not, everybody don't get the same thing. Everybody don't get the same entitlement. Depends on where you're going, how long you're going to be there. There's just so many things that the JTR covers. I know we don't get into finance, we transporters, but you got your TLA, your QQSE. You have all those type of transactions that's in the JTR. But the thing is, it's like when those inequities pop up, it's like we get calls all the time. Well, my friend did it. Okay. Well, where were your friend going?
What rank was your friend?
Yeah.
Did your friend have dependents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all those come into play, and everybody just don't get the same thing, And like I know we get a lot in even in extensions, and we get calls where um, retired member call. Yeah, I want to apply for an extension. I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said all I had to do was call, and we asked the basic questions, do you have orders when you retire, and they go back and say, well, I retired in 2005. Well, it's 22, that 6-year time period has expired. So there we go again, like the folks that tell you, always contact your transportation office. Yeah, people can give you information, but you need to contact your local transportation office to get that right information, so that you don't spread rumors.
Rumors, that's right.
Yeah.
And with mentioning that about how people phone a friend or you ask someone, that someone is not a traffic management professional and they are just telling you something real quick. They're not asking you about the details as if you called your PIPO or your gypso to provide you that information. And I have a little funny story, and I'll tell it really quick. I remember when I first came in the military, I had left home, and I called my mother for her to give me the recipe on making a sweet potato pie. So, me and Mr. Stanton have the whole same home state. We're both from Mississippi. So, I'm like, I was about to boast to my friends about how great this sweet potato pie was. However, my mother didn't tell me all the details. One of the big details she left off is to add sugar. And so I was so proud of my pies. They were beautiful. And I took them to like three or four of my friends, and they were excited because they knew I was from Mississippi and I could cook. But my mother left out an important detail. And so when I asked my friends how they were, they said, well, it seemed like something was a little off. I said, well, what you think? I said, really? I said, my mama gave me the recipe. So I went back to my mother and found out that she left out one of the ingredients. She said, oh, I thought you would have known that. I said, well, mommy, I didn't know, and that's how it is when you ask your friends. They're just going to give you partial information because they think you know the rest of the
Right.
thing.
They make an assumption.
Make an assumption.
And the devil's in the details. Believe me, you got to read the details.
Absolutely. So let's go to our next question. The next one is, as the functional manager for the Board of Corrections and Military Records at Prescribed Activity, what cases do you feel the board's decision was a monumental success for that applicant or those applicants?
As a staffer for well, I kind of assist our main staff here with BCMRs, and the thing is, we staff uh, basically we gather information provided to the board. The board makes the decision. So I don't want anybody out there thinking that PPA makes the decision. We don't make the decision. I had BCMR sent directly to me. I'm going like, oh, I'm not the one you sent it to. You got to send it to the Air Force Board for Correction of Military Records.
Mm-hmm.
It was one that was kind of told to me, and it's been handed down over the years. And I think that was probably one of the monumental BCMRs that I ever heard about. Okay. Most ones we get now, we get a few that uh, might be a little out of the way, but none like this one. Uh, we had a chief of excess costs. He's deceased now, Mr. Al August, and some of you out there might know him. Okay. He always talked about when he used to go sit on the board in DC to watch the board do their work. Okay. And he had, and I'll tell you another one also. On this case, based on what the board was reviewing, just a little synopsis, the staff sergeant was got an Article 15, and he had submitted a Board for Correction Military Records, BCMR. And as they was going through it and reading the language in it and all the supporting documentation, it was a memo in there from the staff sergeant's commander, where basically that commander down talked him, degraded him, didn't have anything good to say about him. Okay. And as they go through other cases, one of the members on the board said, well, can we go back to that staff sergeant case? And they went back and pulled that case and we was reviewing it. And this is the power of the board now. It's like the board members say, no one should be really talked to like that and humiliated like that. I think we should approve this case. Mm-hmm. They took a vote and they approved the case. And poof, the Article 15 was gone like that. The other case, I wasn't involved in, but August, he always told it all the time also, had an individual tech sergeant. He signed a reenlistment bonus. And for those that didn't receive reenlistment bonus, they give it to you in increments. Okay. So when it was time for him to get his second increment or whatever the next increment was, uh, they denied it because I think when you get to a certain year of military service, you can no longer get a bonus. And I think it's like 16 or 18 years, somewhere like that. I'm not for sure. Don't say I said it was 16 or 18 years. I don't know the exact year. I'm just throwing out an estimate here, And it went to the board, and the board said that the Air Force needed to honor their contract with that member. Okay. Now, keep in mind now, the board can't break any statutes or break any laws or anything like that. Okay. So they sent it to Mr. August and they said, we need you to figure out if this member did a Diddy move, aka PPMs now, from what point to what point would he get this amount of money?
Mhm.
So Mr. August spent weeks, almost a month, figuring out what places they could authorize a Diddy move to come out with that amount of money that the government owed him on his reenlistment bonus.
Mm.
And that's the kind of power the board has, but they can't like go out there and just like break a law or anything like that. So those are probably the most memorable ones that Mr. August, brought up. And I worked a whole bunch, moving prior to the issuance of orders. Uh, uh, I didn't get my full PPM payment. I was denied a household goods shipment. All those type of things. So, but those two pretty much stick out the most in my mind.
And I love that story. And of course, I know that story because I work with Mr. August as well. Um, and I love that story about the staff sergeant that was able to turn around that Article 15 because he had poor leadership. And that's something that, as professionals, we want to make sure that we are doing our best to empower and cultivate our airmen. So, my next question: what guidance would you leave in becoming a SME in the career field?
It's simple. You're gonna get no simpler than this. Know your job. Read, read, read. Everything that come out, read, read, read. You know, and don't go on secondhand information. When everybody think I got a photographic memory. It'd be like, well,
Now, I
I
did
used,
see you quote those regulations like they were sitting in front of you. So obviously,
okay, look at me as a chef. Okay,
okay.
a chef when they cook, how many times do they use the recipe? Not, not at all. They probably know their recipe back and forth. Okay, and that's kind of how I treat my job. You know, when I go and read the JTR, I don't read it just to find an answer. I read it to know it forever, as
Mhm.
long as I need it. And and everybody think, well, your photographic memory, can't nobody remember? It's if you set your mind, what's that old saying? If you set your mind to it, you can do it.
Mhm.
And that's all it is. It's
Is
like
a song? Is that a song?
I don't know. It could be a son. Want me to sing
There you go.
it? No, but yeah, it's just knowing your job. It's like, and it's kind of easy. You can relate the paragraphs to some fictional or whatever the case may be. Like 0518A. That's SIT.
Mhm.
Uh, 0518B. That's non-temp. B2 basically states that uh, non-temp must be in a facility near where the orders was issued at. You can't say, well, uh, I'm gonna move my property to home, then I want to put it in non-temp.
Mhm.
So you got all those things. You just can relate. At least I can. Uh, I read it. I remember to know it because that's my job. You know.
And so, what I think you've said is know your job
Job.
and know your job well.
Mhm.
And in doing that, you know, you when you said you just don't read it, you read it to remember it, comprehend it, digest it, because guess what? You're gonna have to tell us that same reference again in another situation. And so if we just take a deep dive and
Mhm.
ensure that we have the skills that we need, we all can be SMEs in
Oh
our
yeah.
career field.
And when you read the JTR or any other regulation or any other book, don't read it to uh, interpret it as something different.
Mhm.
It's in black and white. The cat is on the roof.
Mhm.
Okay. Don't put the cat went on the roof and now is on the roof or whatever the case may be. Read the JTR for what it says.
Mhm.
Okay. Another thing to reading the JTR, you don't have it in there as much as you used to, but some paragraph they will enclose a comptroller general decision.
Mhm.
And that decision holds the background to how that information ended up into the JTR. Okay. And so it gives you an idea of where it came from and how it got to be into the JTR.
And our AFIs and our directives, our regulations are our law.
Yeah.
That's what covers our instructions on what we do day in and day out. So, my last question, and this is bittersweet. What words of wisdom would you like to share with our traffic management enterprise and leaders of tomorrow?
Uh, if we could go back to some of that old school training, we have so much stuff online. It's like, well, you need to do this training, go to this website. All right. It's gonna take 30 minutes out of your day to do it. And I know everybody don't have time to pick up away from their job and go cross base and do training, but that's the way it used to be. I know we didn't have the internet and things like that. So you can't ask a computer a question if you don't understand what the question is.
Mhm.
Okay. You got to go in there and make a guess. You get the wrong guess, you don't get that 70 passing grade. What you got to do? You got to take it all back over again.
Mhm.
But if you had someone that you could talk to and say, hey, I really don't comprehend this question, you know, then you probably would get that passing grade. But I just think we just need, especially at the gypsos and at the pipso, we have the time to do, uh, you know, hands-on training. And that's one thing I thank my supervisors for. They was never too busy to answer a question for me, you know. And Al August, Fitzpatrick, Randy Teskey, all those guys, when I worked for those guys, they didn't say like, "Oh, why you interrupted me?" or "What you want now?" They was there, you know, and they said, "Well, you didn't bring the book with you. Well, go get it. Let's look at it," and we'll research it together. That's what we need. We need more supervisor to subordinate training going on, because let me tell you like this: we have, and I hate to say this, there are a lot of us out there that are not doing that anymore, you know, and that's what we need to get back to. And and training is going to be a key for making this a great enterprise. And we have training. Well, since I'm retiring, I won't be having training anymore. But
Yes, you will. We're going to call you. And I love the fact that we have all this technology. We can do it on Zoom and just beam you in.
what's a Zoom?
We'll teach you. We'll teach you. We'll
Yeah,
teach you.
yeah. But we have training every Thursday here. We talk about the cases that we've had through the week. We talk about these off the wall cases. So that when you call into the PPA, regardless if you talk to Miss Dr. Griffin here, myself, our tech guy over here, Staff Sergeant Hibbler, you are going to get the same answer. Okay, and please, don't circle the wagon. We get it all the time. They call me. Don't nobody like my answer. They call me this Taylor. Instead of giving the same answer. Then they want to talk to the supervisor. They give him this brown guard. This brown guard to give you the same answer. Okay, that's our key. We're not going to be wishy-washy on answers. Okay, and it all depends on how you explain it too. If you explain it different each time, you probably won't get a different answer. All we need to know is the truth. And never call me, well, I won't be here, but never call me with a hypothetical. Is this an issue or is not an issue? Okay. Well, what about a hypothetical? I got a hypothetical question for you. It had to pop up from somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
It had to be in the back of somebody's mind, right? Of doing it or not doing it. Just tell us what it is. Tell us exactly what it is. Don't leave anything out. Okay. And we're going to give you the concrete, exact answer, regulatory base each time. Okay. So I just revert back to trade. I'm sorry, I'm old school, but and I'm not good at technology on the internet and stuff like that. But immediate supervisor, you need to do some hands-on training with your younger folks. Help them through, you know, help them learn how to do their job better. Training. That's all I have to say. Training
And
and training.
yeah, and training. And not only is it about training, it's about the teamwork, the collaboration. And I remember, coming to Gypso, it was Gypso then, and then branching off into PPA. And some of my fondest moments was the collaboration that I had the opportunity to experience between Mr. August, Mr. Davis, and Mr. Stanton, and just being in the room and hearing all that knowledge. And we had our books out, or we were talking about something in the red. Well, what do you think this looks like, or what's your interpretation of this? And everybody's response was valued because we worked as a team. And that's one of the biggest things: training and understanding the importance of working as a team and the power in collaboration. And when you collaborate with each other, you learn more. It's not just one sided. It's just not my opinion. It's what the directive says, or the instructions that we have tells us to do about our job.
Right. And it's like, and we know that even reading the JTR, everybody develop a different interpretation. Okay. I think the advantage that I have and many of the other old timers out there have is that we went through a series of JTR. We went from the M series to the U series to just 4 paragraph number. Now we're at 6 paragraph number. So we've been through that. We saw all the old development. Now keep in mind, now I only ever worked personal property, 41 years, nothing but personal property. So I know when the weight allowances went up, all those type of changes. So old timers like me and some others out there, very few and few. So we know the transition of the JTR as it is today. So even though when you read in the JTR, it may not sound like what it was in the old paragraph. It's slightly different, but it's the same thing, really.
Mhm.
And the per diem committee will tell you when they rewrote the JTR, their only intention was to shorten it, okay? Not change or delete any entitlements that was already established. Training,
Training. We're going to say it again, training.
training. Yes, sir.
All right. So it has been a delight, a pleasure to do these segments with you.
Pleasure's all mine.
And, I'm going to miss you.
I'm going to miss everything about personal property because it's always been the love of my life. And,
Absolutely.
and folks out there may think I'm blowing smoke, but trust me, I'm not. Personal property got a lot of wheels, bolts, nuts, cranks to it. It's not if you working in packing and crating. Nothing wrong with packing and crating because we need it too. Like some folks can take it out of context, like, oh, he don't like packing and crating. I never worked in packing and crating, but it's just slightly different. The boxes don't talk back. The boxes don't have feelings. So, when people are moving their personal belongings, they are all tied up into their personal belongings. It's like that's all you have. A car you can replace. If you ship your car and it catch on fire, you can replace that. But what about all those pictures, all of that other family memorabilia? When you lose that, you lose a part of yourself.
Yeah.
you know. But uh, I don't know. It's just been a pleasure, and hopefully, they'll bring me back in the future, so we can have some of these discussions. And they might keep me abreast of all the new changes that's going on, but I'm not going to be actively looking for any changes while I'm retired. So,
Oh, don't rub it in. Well, again, Mr. Stanton, thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your guidance over the years. And you want to go ahead and sign out?
ladies and gentlemen, it's Dr. Griffin and Karl Stanton from the Personal Property Activity Headquarters in San Antonio, Texas, on the Ask Carl third segment. You have a great day. Be safe.
Signing out.